The Virginia Supreme Court striking down the Democrats' proposed House map that would have drastically shifted the balance of power in the midterm elections. The redistricting plan Democrats were proposing would have turned a narrow 6-5 split into a near sweep for their party, 10-1. Here to discuss is former Virginia Attorney General Jason Miyares. Great to have you with us. I just want to say this from the very outset. This was really about the process, from my understanding, because it looked like they basically ran through all of the stop signs just to try to rush this to the voters. Is that your understanding of what the court is saying, Jason?
Yes, I mean, there is a right way and a wrong way to amend the Constitution of Virginia, and what the Supreme Court noted is they didn't follow the right process. Not to get too wonky, but you're supposed to have an intervening election. They had 1 million people had already voted in Virginia, and they had a special section a week before the election in October. There was a host of problems with this. This is a win for the rule of law. I do find it erotic, the number of people that are going after the Virginia Supreme Court. The justice that wrote this opinion actually was appointed to the Court of Appeals by Mark Warner when he was governor, a Democrat, and then was elevated to the Supreme Court of Virginia on a unanimous vote of the General Assembly. Every Democrat in the General Assembly voted for him, including Louise Lucas. So they are going after somebody who's a reasonable justice, and I really respect what the Supreme Court did because they showed that this is why they exist. When politicians get in a line and they're not obeying the Constitution, our state Constitution, to get them back in the line, it's a win for the rule of law and it's a win for common sense.
And by the way, let's be honest about this. There are entire swaths of this country where GOP voters have been completely disenfranchised. I'm looking in particular at what has been happening in New England for quite some time.
Yeah, it is true. In other states, you've seen where you have 40 to 45% of voters saying they want a Republican, and they have 0% of the representation in Congress. And what the Supreme Court says is each state can make their own determination. In this case, if you're going to try to amend the Constitution, you can't ignore the Constitution, is essentially what the Supreme Court did. And I've always been consistent in my career that I think what we have in Virginia works, which is nonpartisan redistricting. Each state makes those decisions. I'm not a fan of whether it's in California, New York, or Texas, but what I am saying in Virginia, we have the right process. Let's not change it.
Let me share while I have you. This is a national map, and a lot of people are talking about what could happen around the country. This could ultimately benefit the GOP in a number of different states, perhaps as many as 13. Especially looking ahead to the midterm elections. And so what really started as a fire, a flicker of a fire, even if you will, over in the state of Texas, and then, of course, billowed into this inferno out in California, really could ultimately benefit the GOP. But I want to share what Hassan Piker had to say about what has been happening with respect to in Virginia and more broadly with respect to redistricting. He said this on X: the Virginia Supreme Court denied the results of the redistricting referendum. SCOTUS gutted the Voting Rights Act, and Tennessee carved up the last Dem district, destroying black voter power in the state. Those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable. That seems inflammatory. Your thoughts?
Yeah, always wrong and never in doubt in this case. Yeah, I think that type of rhetoric is so grossly irresponsible. He is criticizing a judiciary, the Supreme Court, for just following what the law is in Virginia. But think about what he is trying to excuse. This is the first dangerous, slippery slope towards excusing violence. And we've seen this emerge in the Democratic Party. We've seen this particularly emerge with young liberals. If you look at the polling after the tragic shooting of Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, roughly half of America's college students said the shooting was justified. That is a slippery slope. That is dangerous type of rhetoric. It is exactly the opposite of what our founders viewed, which is ordered liberty and a republic of the people. This idea that you want to settle your disputes at the barrel of a gun is absolutely ludicrous and insane. And all these Democratic politicians who want to campaign with this individual, they need to come out and condemn him. Because otherwise they are essentially endorsing it, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing. Free speech, great. But inflammatory speech where you're inciting violence is, I think, a whole other animal. Jason Miyares, always a pleasure. Thank you for spending time with us this morning. We appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Good to be with you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube, and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.